Hello, fourth year students. After we finish talking about statements and questions, we come now to talk about the third type of sentences in English, which is a command. So in this video, we are going to talk about the definition, types, and structures of the commands in English, or as some people call them, imperative sentences. To start, first of all, with defining the commands or imperative sentences, we can say that commands are a type of sentences in which someone is being told to do something. Command sentences usually, but not always, start with an impressive, bossy verb because they tell someone to do something. So this is, in a very simple way, the definition or a clarification of what a command in English is. A command is usually come or appear for us in the form of a sentence, and the meaning of this sentence is to tell the addressee what to do. They say here in this definition that usually, but not always, as we are going to say, usually commands in English start with a verb, a very simple verb, or the base form of the verb. For example, stop talking now. So the verb here that this sentence starts with is stop. It comes in a form of it's in its base and imperative form to tell what the addressee has to do. Don't press that button. This command is negative because it starts with don't press. So here we are telling the addressee not to do something. Ask Max to sign this form and then send it off immediately, please, Gwen. Here we have two commands joined together by and. The first command starts with the verb ask, and then we have send. Send, okay, ask and send. Another example of a command or commands or the use of commands in English is when we give instructions. Okay, we show people how to do things. For example, beat 4 eggs like this, then add the flour gradually. Don't beat the eggs too much though. Here this is a form in which we are going or we are telling someone how to, for example, to bake a cake. So you see here all the sentences that we use in order to give the instructions, they start with the base form of the verb, and we want to tell what to tell or to show what the addressee has to do. So these are what, again, examples of commands in English. Types. What are the types of commands in English? The first and the most common type of commands in English is a command without a subject. It starts only with the verb. Okay? So we call this command a command without a subject. So here they say that these or such commands are different from statements in two things. First of all, there's no subject or it has no subject. At least the subject is not clear. We know that there is an implied subject, okay, because we are talking to someone and we are telling this someone what to do, but we are not mentioning who is this one. We are not mentioning clearly in the sentence who should do these things that we are ordering him or her to do. So here, when we are not mentioning and we are not saying the subject clearly in the sentence, we are having a command with no subject. Number two, it has an imperative finite verb. So here, there is no subject, so it is going to start with what? With the verb. the verb will have one form, and this form it is going to be imperative. It has the imperative form, the finite form. How can how can we distinguish or identify this imperative finite form? It is in the base form of the verb with no endings for number or tense. So we are not going to add, for example, the third person singular as to say that we are talking to someone who is singular. Or we cannot add ed to say that this command is in the past. You see? So here the command starts with a verb that comes in its base form with no indication for number or tense. There's no suffix that shows anything related to number or tense. For example, if we say jump, jump, this is a sentence that has only one verb, consists of only the verb. How did we do that? Because this verb actually is made, by this verb actually we are making a command. And you see, because it is a sentence, it can have a pattern just like any other types of sentences, just like statements, just like questions. So when we say jump, here I have in my sentence only one element, which is the verb. Okay? So as we say, is there a subject here? Yes, there is a subject, but the subject is not mentioned clearly. It is implied subject. Again, another example, we have be reasonable. Again, this is another sentence, imperative sentence, or another command. It has no subject. It starts only with what? With the verb. And you see here, the verb that here we are using is the verb be in its base form. Okay, followed by reasonable, which is an adjective. And we know that adjectives that come after the verbs to be function as what? As subject complement. So the pattern of this sentence is verb subject complement. The last example, put it on the table. Put it on the table. So again, this is a command that starts with the verb put, followed by it as the direct object, followed by on the table, which is adverb of a place. So you see, commands also have patterns. Although there are some elements which are missing from their structure, mainly this type of commands, we have no subject, no clear subject, but still they are sentences and they have patterns. The imperative verb, there are certain notes that we have to pay attention to when making a command without a subject. Number one, the imperative verb, however, is severely restricted as to tense, aspect, voice, and modality. So there is no indication of tense. There is no ed, no ing. Okay, telling us that this command is in the past or in the present or in the present continuous. We don't have such a thing in the verb. There's no perfect aspect. We are not talking. The verb that we are using to make a command has a simple aspect. There's no continuous aspect because it cannot be made in the continuous tenses. No perfect aspect because it cannot be made in perfect tenses, and so on. And only very rarely does the progressive form occur. So sometimes, okay, or as they say here, very rarely the progressive, the continuous form can be used. For example, be preparing the dinner when he comes in. So here the command or the order is be preparing. Here we are, or why are we using here the command in the progressive or the continuous tense? Because we want to indicate something. We want to express something. which is that you're preparing the dinner should be continuous even when they what? When they come in. Is it clear? So it means that you should continue, you should start from now making dinner and continue doing it even when they come in. Number 2, a passive is equally rare. So they say here the form of the verb that we use to make a command cannot be made in passive, only in rare cases. Only when the verb, the auxiliary that we use to make the passive is not the verb to be, something else. For example, get washed. Get washed. Here, get functions as what? The auxiliary that we use to make the verb wash in the what? In the passive. Okay, so instead of saying wash your face, here I said what? As you see, wash your face. It is a command that consists of a verb plus a direct object, and we know that in order to make a sentence passive, we need a direct object. So there is a direct object. So in the passive, I can say get washed. I don't say be washed, no, get washed. Although they say that sometimes we can also use be as an auxiliary to make commands passive, but here we are using be only in a limited set of commands, like be prepared, okay, be seated. For example, instead of take a seat, okay, we say be seated. Be reassured by me. Okay, you see, by me. Be reassured by me. So only in these 3 commands we can use the verb be or as an auxiliary to make the command passive. Number 3, modal auxiliaries do not occur at all in imperative sentences. There is no can, there is no must, there is no may, no might, no could, no modal auxiliary whatever can be used in making a command in English. Number 4, stative verbs can be interpreted as dynamic, however, in a special context. So we cannot use a stative verbs that refer to states. The verbs that do not have the meaning of an action, okay, they do not indicate an action. We cannot use such verbs in making commands unless we change the meaning of these verbs to be what? To be dynamic. For example, know the answer by tomorrow. We know that the verb know is usually a stative verb, okay? It does not include the meaning of an action. But when I say use it in this command, actually I don't want to refer to the stative meaning. I want to say find out, discover, get to know, or learn. You see? So here the verb know has changed its meaning from the stative into the dynamic, or into referring into an action, in order to be able to so that I am able to use it as what? As a verb in making commands in English. Number 5, commands are apt to sound abrupt. They are rough in style, rude in style, unless toned down by markers of politeness, such as please. So, usually when we say the command, people may understand that we are being impolite, because as we say that usually their style is being understood as being rude, tough. So in order to lighten this toughness or this rudeness in the style of commands, they say that, okay, use some markers that refer to politeness in your sentence. For example, use the word please. Please eat up your dinner. Shut the door, please. Okay, so you see here, this is a polite command because we use in this command the word please. Or another way is that we can say the command in a form of a question or a statement. So instead of saying the command directly as a command, we say it in the form of a statement. For example, I'd like you to bring us 4 coffees at 11 when we take a break in the meeting. So instead of saying bring us 4 coffees, we say I'd like you to bring us, a statement. Okay? I'd be grateful if you didn't tell anyone about this. Instead of saying don't tell anyone about this, okay, so we change it into a statement in order to be polite. I'd be grateful if you didn't tell anyone. Will you bring us the files on the Hanley case, please, Maria? Instead of being direct and polite and say bring us the files, here he has, or the speaker says his command in the form of a question. Will you bring us the files on the Hanley case, please, Maria? He made it in the form of a yes/no question. Okay, so here, as you see, it starts with an auxiliary, but the speaker here is actually not asking. He is making a request. He is making a command. And why is he saying this command in the form of a question? In order to be polite, in order to show politeness. Number 2, commands with the subject. So as we said that before, that there is a subject in commands, but it is implied, it is not clear. So when we make a command with a subject, we actually here we are putting or producing this subject clearly in the structure of our sentence. And usually this subject is the second pronoun you. How can we prove this? How can we prove that the subject of commands is actually you and not any other subject? We can confirm this if we add a tag question. You remember before we studied how to make a tag question. We said tag questions consist of the auxiliary followed by the subject, which should be in a form of a pronoun that refers to the subject of the sentence or the statement we are attaching the tag question to. So here, for example, if I have this command, be quiet, and I want to attach to it a tag question, okay, I'm going to choose an auxiliary, be quiet. The auxiliary is will, because I want you to be quiet in the future, will. Sorry. And then after will, I have the subject, which should be in the form of a pronoun that refers back to the subject of be quiet. So here, the suitable pronoun or the correct pronoun to be used is you, okay, because I already know or I already understand that who is going to be quiet, or I am talking to whom to be quiet, to you. So the tag question is will you? Be quiet, will you? Another proof is that if I want to use an object as a reflexive pronoun, again we talked about the concord between the subject and the object, especially when we are using the object in the form of a reflexive pronoun. We say all the times the reflexive pronoun should refer back to the subject. So for example, when I say behave yourself, behave, this verb needs to be followed by a reflexive pronoun. Can I say behave himself or behave herself or behave themselves? No, I am talking to you. And because I am talking to you, I assume that the suitable reflexive pronoun for you that goes back or reflects back the subject you is yourself. So it becomes behave yourself. So they say here the subject is you, and when we are using a command with the subject, with a clear subject which is you, we are actually going to make or give this subject a stress. Okay, although that this you is a pronoun, and usually we know that pronouns are not getting stress in sentences. Okay, they are grammatical words and they are not stressed, but because here we are emphasizing the verb in order to make, sorry, we are emphasizing the subject to make a command, here the subject you is going to get stress. So you be quiet, you mind your own business and leave this to me. You see, commands again. These commands are usually admonitory and frequently express strong irritation. Again, as you see, they are again, they have some sort of rudeness or toughness in their style. So in order to tone down, to lighten this toughness or rudeness, they say that also we can use some markers of politeness, but not to please. We cannot use please with the commands with the subject. For example, we cannot say please you be quiet. This is incorrect. So what should we do in order to make commands with a subject polite? Here they say that you can say it in a way in order to show your politeness. For example, use pointing by talking to more than one people and mention the names of the people you are talking to. For example, you come here, Jack, and you go over there, Mary. You see, here you are pointing to certain people to do to direct them or to give them your commands, and here you are showing that you are being polite with them. Also, another type of subject that can appear in the commands with a subject is a third person subject pronoun, like somebody open this door. So I am ordering here somebody to open the door, or everybody shut their eyes. Okay, I am ordering all the people I see, so I say everybody. Okay, Jack and Susan, stand over there. I am ordering here two people and I am mentioning their names. So here Jack and Susan, they are the subject who are going to be or going to stand over there, okay, to do my command. Okay, what is important to know about the commands with a subject is that it is easy to confuse these types of commands with sentences with a vocative noun phrase. Okay, so in order to differentiate or in order to identify whether we have in this sentence a command with a subject or a sentence with a vocative, here we can depend on certain things in the structure of the sentence. For instance, if you remember, we talked about the vocative. We say that it is an element that is a mobile element that can appear initially in the sentence, medially, or finally. So as you see here, the vocative can change its place in the sentence, while in the command with the subject, we know that the subject has only one place in the sentence, which is at the beginning. Okay. Number two, when we write a sentence with a vocative, if you remember, we said we separate between the elements of the sentence, the elements of the original sentence, and the vocative by a comma. While when we write a sentence that is a command with a subject, we don't usually put a comma between the subject and the verb. Okay. Also, they say that usually commands or sorry, vocatives, they get tone, especially when they are appearing at the beginning of the sentence. They are produced with a four-rise tone. But if we are having a command with a subject, okay, we said here the subject is usually getting a stress, not a tone. So if you look at these examples, you are going to easily differentiate between sentences with a vocative and commands with a subject. For example, Mary, play on my side. You see here we said, Mary, play on my side. So first of all, we say the name of the person who we are calling, or we are trying to get his or her attention. Then we stopped for a short bit to indicate that this is the place of the comma in writing, and then we say what we say, what we want to say, or we say our sentence. Or we can say it in this way: play on my side, Mary. So you see here, Mary is a vocative here because we are able now to change its place from the beginning to the end of the sentence. But if we want to make it a subject of a command, we are going to say, Mary, play on my side. Mary, play on my side. Here, this is, you see, there's no stopping, no short stop between Mary and the verb. And you see here, there's no tone for Mary. We are only stressing it. Again, another proof, or another thing that can help us to distinguish between a vocative and the subject of a command is that we can use we can use them both in a sentence. Okay, both of them, both of the vocative and the subject of a command, can appear in one sentence. For example, John, you listen to me. Okay, you see, John, you listen to me. So John here is the vocative because it gets tone, and in writing we separate it from the sentence by a comma. And then we said, you listen to me. Here this sentence actually comes in a form of a command. Okay, we want to say to John, listen, but here with listen we are saying its subject. We are referring to John by the subject you. Okay, so here, as you see in this sentence, we are having both of them, the vocative and the subject of the command. The third type of commands is a command with let. So here, the commands or first-person imperatives can be formed by preposing the verb let, followed by the subject in the objective case. So we can have commands starting with the verb let, followed by pronouns, okay, subjects that come in a form of usually in the form of pronouns, and these pronouns, they have to be in the objective case. Okay, what does it mean in the objective case? Which it means in the object form, because they are going to function as the object for the verb let. So for example, let us all work hard, and usually we say let us. We abbreviate, we shorten us, and we say let us. Let me have a look. I didn't say let I have a look. No, we say let me. I change it into the objective case, the objective pronoun me, because me here is going to be function as the object for the verb let. Let me have a look. Also, after the let, we can use third person subjects. Let each man decide for himself. Each man, here this is the object for let. I am ordering each man. Or if anyone shrinks from this action, let him speak now. Him. Let him speak now. Okay, so him here, I didn't say you speak now or he speaks now. No, I said let him speak now. Number 4, we have negative commands. So to negate commands, we simply put don't. Okay, and here they say you have to replace, again, you have to pay attention to whether your sentences, your commands are having assertive forms, because in the negative commands, as we learn to do, we cannot use assertive forms. We have to change them into what? Non-assertive. For example, open the door. The negative is don't open the door. This is a command with no subject, without a subject. All we need to do is to add don't, or to put don't at the beginning of the command to make it negative. But if we have a command with a subject, you open the door. This is what a command with a subject. Also, we negate it in the same way. We put don't at the beginning. Don't you open the door. Okay? Someone open the door. This is again a command with a subject, and the subject here is a third person pronoun. Someone open the door. Okay? So again, we change it into negative by using not. Don't, you see here, but here you have to pay attention that someone is assertive, cannot be used in negative command. We have to change it into a non-assertive form. So the negation becomes don't anyone open the door. Okay? Uh, if you have commands that starts with let, okay? What or how can we change these commands into negative? They say that we can do that actually in two ways. Either we add not, okay, after the object pronoun. For example, let's open the door, and the negative becomes let's not open the door. Or we can use don't, okay? Let's open the door, and the negative becomes don't let's open the door. Okay, and they say that using not is actually more preferable in informal English and especially in British English. The second possibility, which is using not, is used with third person command with let, when we are having after let a third person pronoun. For example, let someone open the door. Let someone open the door. Here, in this case, we are having only one form for the negation of this command, which is by using don't. Don't let anyone open the door. Okay, so here this means that when we are having commands starting with let, if we are using after let the first object pronouns, here we have two ways to negate them. These commands, either by putting or adding not after the object pronoun, or by putting don't at the beginning of the command. But if we have after let a third person pronoun, okay, here we have only one way to change it into negative, which is by using don't at the beginning of the command. The last type of commands is called persuasive commands. Persuasive commands. What does it mean, persuasive commands? A persuasive or insistent imperative is created by the addition of do with a nuclear tone before the main verb. So if I want to insist on you to do something, or to persuade you to do something, here I am going to give you a command, but I'm going to start my command with do. For example, do have some more cake. I am insisting, okay? Do let's go to the theater. I'm trying to convince you. Maybe you don't agree. You have something else to do. But if I want to persuade you to go with me to the theater, I say do let's go to the theater. You see here? So here, whether we are having commands with a subject, commands without a subject, simple commands, or commands with let, how can we make them persuasive? The two forms are made persuasive by what? By using do at the beginning. There are two important points we have to notice about do here and don't. Do, we use do at the beginning of commands to make it persuasive, and we use don't at the beginning of commands to make the commands negative. Okay, so here they say that there are do, don't, and let's. These are imperative markers. These three are the markers that we use at the beginning of commands, and we have to differentiate, especially do and don't, differentiate between do and don't in commands from the emphatic do. Sometimes we use do in sentences, and the sentences are not negative or are not questions, okay, only to emphasize something. For example, I do like the play. I do like the play. You see, this is a positive sentence. This is a statement. This is not a question. So why did I use do here instead before before the verb like? Here I want to emphasize the verb like. That's why I put do at the before it. So they say here the verbs, or sorry, the do that we use at the beginning of commands is not like the emphatic do. Okay, here we are not making emphasis. Do that is used at the beginning of commands is making commands persuasive, insistent, while the do that we are using in simple sentences, and they are not negative or not a question, it is used to make emphasis. Also, we have to differentiate between do and don't at the beginning of commands and the do and don't that the operators that we use to make questions, or we use to make sentences negative. They are not the same. Okay, and how can we differentiate between them? They say that do and don't that we use in commands, actually they can be used before be, but the normal operators do and don't cannot be used or cannot precede be. For example, do be seated. You see, do be seated. Here I am insisting that you take a seat or you sit down. So this is a persuasive command. You see, I am using here do before the verb be. Can I use do before or don't before the verb be in making questions? Normal question, yes, no questions, for example, or negatives? No. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. I am here making what a negation, a negative command, okay? And I am using don't before be. Why? Why can I do that? Because this is not a normal sentence statement. This is a command. This peculiarity of imperative do is also found in the quasi-imperative why don't you construction. Okay, so here this particular or this specific or unique form of the imperative do can also be found in some statements or some questions that are similar to commands. For example, why don't you be careful? Why don't you be careful? The form here, as you see, is a WH question. But are we asking? No. We actually we are trying to say be careful. This is as he said here. This is a quasi-imperative. This is it has some sort of similarity to imperative. The meaning is imperative. The meaning is not a WH question. The form only the form is WH question, but the meaning is what? The meaning is imperative, making a command. That's why we, as you see, we didn't put a question mark at the end. Number 2, do, don't, and let's are used in isolation as elliptical commands. If we use them in isolation, we can make ellipses. Okay, for example, shall I open the door? Shall I open the door? You can answer this by yes, do, or no, don't. So do and don't here, they are not operators that we use to say the answer here is positive or the answer is negative. No, these are markers of what? Of commands. Here the listener, when he is answering, giving an answer with yes or no, actually he is what? He is making a command with do or don't. Shall we watch the game? Yes, let's. Okay, let's. And you see here these commands are or have ellipses. There are some elements that have been ellipted from this structure in order to avoid repetition. Okay. So with this, we have finished talking about the structure and the types of commands in English. Thank you.